Daily Grace. It's good to be here. We're here with Uncle Jimbo Perry, in the backyard of his home. And we just thought we'd bring, it's always fun when we get out and about in the community and talking to different folks and to see what's going on. I wonder how long that cat's going to last with us, but as long as he or she does, it'll be great. Jimbo, how many sons do you have?
Well, I have 5 sons that my wife gave us.
And how many grandkids?
And we have 12. Is it 12?
Is it? You just had a brand new one.
I think it's the 12.
12, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's the 12. Yeah, it is. We just had the 12.
I lost
in summer. Gave us our 12th little grandbaby.
Jeez.
And we don't know if any more are on the way. We hope so.
We hope so.
We've got, we think there'll be a few more.
And you probably have 2 or 3 dozen adopted kids over the years.
We've got a lot.
Where you were going
and
at
lots
the
of, lots and lots of, not formally adopted, but folks we consider to be in our family.
Yeah, and that's such a special ministry. Okay, so here we are, week 8 of COVID and sort of shutdown. It's coming out of it, but 8 weeks kind of without court. What have you been up to lately?
Yeah, it's been really, really different, because usually when we have our normal days, we get in, we go down to court, we don't know when we'll be back, and then we try to cram in returning phone calls and doing other things after that. And now at least half of each of our days, if not 3/4 of each of our days, we're not at court. So it's been really, really different. But it's been good. It's been good. I mean, just as an example, I had a guy come in to see me the other day, and he was having some marital issues, and it kind of sideswiped him a little bit. I mean, he's a great guy, works hard, has a good job. He on Saturdays he has a little side business and making extra money for the family so they can go to summer camps and do all the things that a dad wants to try to provide for his family. And his wife came in and just said it's over, and she had sent him a separation agreement for them to go over, and he wanted me to review the separation agreement. And on a normal day, honestly, what I would have done is I would have had him in a schedule of a half hour, and we would have met, and would have gotten his paperwork and gotten back with him later. But at the end of our time of kind of going through the legal facts and everything and explaining the law to him, I just looked at him and I just said, how are you doing? And he was a little surprised, honestly, that I would have taken time to say that. And he put his head down and gathered himself, and he said, well, I wasn't expecting that question, but since you've asked, I'd like to tell you. And he really, unloaded. He had worked so hard to be a good dad, and this thing really just totally surprised him. He said, even though it had only been a few days, he said, but I see what's happened. I was running around acting like I was big and important and doing big and important things. And boy, have I missed it, is what he said. And so it was really, really special. And so we started, I shared a few Bible verses, and we've been emailing a little bit. It's we haven't solved any problem, but he knows at least that he's got a new friend who's praying for him. So it's been a really refreshing way to do law. When you say, lawyers used to say they were attorneys and counselors kind of law, and I think they probably used to do a better job of counseling than we do now. But it's been a great privilege for that to have shifted from a lot of the kind of legal work to more listening now, and not necessarily solving problems or fixing anything, but at least being a friend and helping, and hopefully over time we'll see some light for him and some other folks I've had a chance to be with.
And for others, because we've talked about this a little bit, but jumping off from that story is all of us hanging out at homes. Susan and I were walking the other day, and we saw one of our Kinston Police Department guys and he said, I can't tell you how much the domestic calls have spiked.
Oh,
because
wow.
as we're all in our homes,
Wow.
you know, when people don't navigate conflict well, it gets out of control pretty quickly. And so even our police department. But what are some things that you could pass along to us, or that you've seen in others, or you've maybe trial and errored, but how can we kind of love our wives, or husbands, or wives love their husbands,
Yeah.
and how can we do this time when we're all on top of each other?
Well, thank you for asking that, Jason, because that really is, I believe ultimately, that's the question for those of us who are married. That ultimately is the big question. I mean, the biggest question certainly is, have we accepted Jesus? And are we okay because of the blood of the Lamb? And we have God's Spirit living in us? But then the first privilege and assignment that we really have as believers, as men who are married, is literally, as it talks about in Ephesians chapter 5, to present our wife holy and blameless, without blemish, before God. Because I believe one day, and this is scriptural, I believe one day that when you're in the presence of God, and in fact the Lord comes up, and we yearn to hear those words, well done, good and faithful servant. Not only are we accepted because of the blood of Jesus, but we will be in God's presence and in effect give an account for our lives. I believe that we will present our wives not only as our wife, as our bride, but as the bride of Christ. And I'll tell you, Jason, for me practically, it is such a practical thing. Because what I do is, and really this goes back for me 3 or 4 generations when I had, my great-granddaddy died when he was 28. My great-granddaddy died when he was 39. And so that was kind of my granddad's heritage, having seen a man in the home. And he decided when he was a little boy that if he ever had the privilege of being married, he would be the very best husband he could be. And Jason, my granddaddy, he was a short little guy. He was, his name was Eli. When he went off to college, everybody believed he was a Jewish guy because his name was Eli and he was short. And this is not nice to say, it's not nice to pray about. He was short and he had a big nose and big ears. I got the big nose and I got the big ears.
But you're not short.
But I'm not short because he was wise enough. He found this beautiful woman whose name was Elizabeth. And Elizabeth was tall and elegant. And he very quickly knew that he wanted to pursue her. And he did, and she rebuffed him time and time again. He wrote her a letter for 3 years, every day, except on Sundays when he sent her a box of candy. And his basic message was, if you will allow me to be your husband, you could find somebody a lot handsomer than me, who will make a lot more money than me, but you will never find a man who will love you the way that I will love you.
Wow.
And that was his heritage, and that was the heritage that was handed to me. And so I've got my granddad's journal by my bed. And if I don't read it every morning from the journal, I've got it there and I'm conscious of it being there. And his second journal entry was, in all things, keep the end in mind. And so literally, before I put my feet on the ground and I do a wave offer and I say, Jesus, I'm here, I'm available. What's your assignment today for me? What can I do today to advance your kingdom, build your kingdom, not mine? I know he's already given me an assignment. He's got some secret assignments for me today and for you today, that he wants us to be part of that great adventure of life and changing lives. But he's also got an assignment for each of us that is laying right in the bed right next to us. And that is that we give her our best. Now, practically speaking, Jason, is really a funny thing, and this is a weird example, and it's kind of stupid. The other day, I'd been out, and I'm having the most fun doing yard work. And I find sometimes I can't quite do anything right as far as my wife is concerned. So I'd worked really hard, and I had lined up these bricks beautifully in this little part of the garden. And I'd kind of run out of bricks, so I had bricks that had holes in them. And so Joan, when she was running out of the driveway, she saw the bricks with holes in them. She said, honey, I love the idea of the bricks, but she said, I just don't like holes in bricks. And she didn't say anything else about it, so I thought, well, I'm going to fix the bricks. So I got the bricks, and I turned them over on their side so that you couldn't see the holes anymore. I mean, it was a great thing. Well, she wrote out again, and she got out to admire the bricks, and she noticed the holes were still in the bricks. They were on but they were up on the side instead of down. And so she came in and she said, "Honey," she said, "I appreciate your effort, but there's still holes in the bricks." Well, she didn't have anything else, but I went out a couple of days ago and I scrounged up some bricks without holes. And I've got the bricks of it. Now, that's a stupid example, but I don't want my wife thinking about things that kind of crowd out her mind with stuff that she's got a lot more important thing to think about than where there are holes in the bricks.
Yeah.
And it may seem silly to me, but if it's something that's important to her, then it's important to me. And of course, we all know the most important thing, that we can do for our children is to love our wives well, as Christ loves the church. That means to literally be willing to die for her. And I'm going to do that practically on a day-by-day basis.
Right.
I don't do it right all the time. I mess up a whole lot. I was trying my best to do the dishes. I left some grease in the bowl and I put it up. I was just going. I want to get the bowl fixed. I wanted to go. I had something else in mind. I want to go and get the kitchen done and go spend time with my wife, kind of thing. But I want it. But really, honest to goodness, it's kind of, it's been a great time, I think, for families in terms of not being able to do dance 4 nights a week or have all these ball games and all these things. So they've got so much more time at home, and you do want, but you don't want to just fill your time up with busyness, kind of seeing what you can do to stay busy. I think this is such a great time to sit back and do the things that we always know we should be doing, the most important things, and go ahead and do those well. And for me, that means that I have really been able to figure out what it would look like to love my wife well, which is an action. We all know that love is not a feeling, it's an act of your will. And as Don Francisco said in a song a long time ago, so that's what I want to do. And that's what drives me on a daily basis. And again, it's not, it really is trying to keep the end in mind in terms of being in the presence of God and knowing that I want to do, I may mess up in a lot of things, and I do mess up in a lot of things, but I want to do that part as best I can.
That's
by
right.
God's grace and spirit and His love within me.
And dying to self is, it can be lying down in front of a truck for her, for your wife, but it can also be the million little things that we just are called to do, and we kind of even know we should do, and yet it's still easy for me to sit on the couch.
It is.
If I'm not thinking.
And I'll just give everybody a practical suggestion. Tonight, go out to your wife's car and see how much gas she's got in the gas gauge, and see if in her car, and see if the car's dirty. If it is, then just take a half hour, ride down, fill the car up with gas, and clean the car. And who knows, she may fill your tank later.
That's exactly right.
I shouldn't say that. But anyway,
well, Jimbo, it's a family show. So.
That's right, it's a family. And guys always have an ulterior motive, so it's all okay.
That's exactly right.
That's right.
So one of the last thing here, because you are always in Scripture. You're always with a verse on your heart or your mind that you've been chewing on. What has God been feeding you with lately?
Well, I am right now in the book of Kings, and finished Judges and Kings and all those, just getting into Chronicles and all those things. I had a friend, Daniel King. Some of y'all might remember him. He was one of our fellows that lived with us. And Daniel called me up about a week ago, and he said, and he was, we were just kind of talking. We had time to talk. He said, Jimmy, who's your favorite biblical character? And I thought, and I said, well, Daniel, I've always wanted to be left-handed, so I really like, isn't it Ehud? Ehud. So I said, Ehud's my favorite today, because he was a left-handed guy. I've had a really fun time lately, and Mephibosheth, am I saying that right? Mephibosheth, it really is talked about a lot in the Bible, and he was, as you'll recall, is Jonathan's son. You remember Jonathan and David had entered into a covenant with each other, in which they had agreed that if something happened to one, then they would help take care of each other's family. And so David, Mephibosheth, when he was being carried away by his by his nanny or whoever, fell down, broke his leg. He was a cripple, didn't feel like he had any value, and yet David really honored Saul and Jonathan's family by restoring Mephibosheth to his table and to much of what he had. And I've thought about Mephibosheth a bit lately in terms of, I bring nothing. I bring nothing to the table when it comes to, with us and the Lord. The other night, Joan and I came out. There was all the comets there were comets out a couple of weeks ago, week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, I guess. And we came out. And we watched the comets up near Vega and up near the constellation Lyra. Anyway, and we were looking at it, and we were just kind of thinking, we're pretty little. We really, we sometimes might feel like we've made a difference, or we're big, or we've done this, or we've done that. But in the scheme of things, outside of Jesus loving us, we're not much. And so I've, had fun kind of thinking about, I'm just a Mephibosheth before the Lord. I have nothing to offer, but I am very, very thankful that I have God's grace.
Yeah, amen.
So,
Oh, I love that story of the loving kindness of the king
yeah.
to Mephibosheth.
Yeah.
2 Samuel 9, I think. I might be wrong.
And
That's
I think
right in
it's
there.
actually talked about in a couple other places. Interestingly enough, he's mentioned in another couple of places. So,
Well,
yeah.
Jimbo, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for taking some time to share with us today. It's always good to be with friends. And thank you for joining us on the Daily Grace today. We'll see you tomorrow.